There's a reason team spirit feels more like a chokehold to a sigma. For most, being part of a team is intoxicating safety in numbers, a shared anthem, validation through collective applause. But for the sigma, it's suffocation. It's noise disguised as unity. It's obligation disguised as loyalty. The sigma doesn't despise teams. He despises the suffocating demand to lose himself for one. He doesn't melt into the herd. He doesn't chant because others chant. He doesn't wear the jersey just to blend. Team spirit demands conformity. The sigma breeds individuality. And when those two clash, the man who refuses to kneel to the chant is always branded the enemy. This isn't about arrogance. It's about survival of the self. And that's why team spirit feels like a prison. Upcoming are 10 truths about why sigma males suffocate under the weight of collective loyalty when others treat it like oxygen. 1. He sees teams as chains, not freedom. A chain painted in team colors is still a chain. Most men think teams give freedom, protection, identity, purpose. They see the jersey as a shield, the chant as belonging, the rulebook as guidance. But the sigma sees the hidden cost. Every so-called benefit comes at the price of his individuality. Team spirit demands sacrifice of thought, voice, and independence, and that price is too high. To the sigma, this isn't freedom. It's quiet slavery with a smiley mask. Every cheer that demands compliance, every rule dressed up as unity, is nothing but a leash designed to keep men in line. He suffocates not because he's weak, but because he refuses to breathe air filtered through conformity. And when the choice is between choking in a uniform or breathing raw and unfiltered alone, the sigma will choose solitude every time. 2. He knows unity often masks weakness. The louder the chant, the weaker the spine. Crowds hide inside chants because the noise drowns out the hollow silence they can't face alone. Weak men scream unity because by themselves they collapse. They need the chant the way a drowning man needs a rope. But the sigma doesn't need that rope. He doesn't need noise to feel whole. He stands steady without the drum beat, balanced in silence where others panic. That's why team spirit suffocates him, because it's not about real strength. It's about hiding weakness behind a mask of togetherness, screaming loud enough to cover the fear inside. And he doesn't wear masks. He doesn't chant to forget himself. He chooses truth over noise, even if the truth isolates him. 3. He refuses to bow to manufactured loyalty. Forced loyalty is betrayal wearing perfume. Teams demand loyalty not earned, but enforced. You're expected to bleed the colors, no questions asked, to sacrifice judgment for obedience, to nod and clap even when every fiber in your gut screams no. That isn't loyalty, it's conscription in disguise. The sigma rejects that kind of arrangement. His loyalty is not to slogans or colors, but to truth, authenticity, and self-respect. If those values clash with the team's demands, he doesn't negotiate. He doesn't explain the bridge burns without hesitation. He understands that loyalty without choice is just control, and he will never bow to control. To him, team spirit feels like a staged performance of loyalty, a theater of forced smiles and rehearsed chants. And the sigma doesn't perform. He refuses to wear the costume or read the script, because loyalty that must be demanded was never loyalty at all. 4. He doesn't need the noise to validate his voice. If your voice only exists inside a chant, it was never yours. In teams, the chant matters more than the individual voice. Your worth is measured not by thought or truth, but by how loudly and obediently you echo the group. The more you repeat, the more you're praised. The less you question, the safer you are. That's the transaction. Silence your individuality in exchange for approval. The sigma doesn't suffocate because he lacks a voice. His voice is there, sharp and steady. He suffocates because the crowd refuses to let him use it outside their script. They demand echoes, not words. They want compliance, not conviction. He won't echo. He won't chant for safety. He speaks even if it cuts against the noise. And that's exactly why he doesn't belong, because a man who speaks truth in a room of echoes will always sound like a threat. 5. He sees team spirit as emotional blackmail. If you don't cheer, you're against us. That's the trap. If you don't join in, you're branded an enemy. There is no room for silence, no room for simply existing. The Sigma suffocates here because neutrality isn't allowed. He doesn't need to be for or against. He doesn't need to wave a flag or carry a banner. He just is. And that should be enough. But team spirit doesn't allow that. It forces sides. It corners men into pledges they never agreed to. It turns every quiet refusal into rebellion. And the Sigma doesn't suffocate because he fears picking one. He suffocates because he refuses to be forced into a game he never asked to play. His silence is branded defiance, his independence mistaken for hostility, and that's why he burns the bridge rather than let it choke him. 6. He doesn't trade individual integrity for collective comfort. The blanket of belonging often hides the cold of dishonesty. Most cling to team spirit because it feels warm, safe, comfortable. But to the Sigma, comfort that costs integrity is poison. He suffocates because every chant asks him to swallow a lie, to say we when he doesn't mean it, to agree just to belong. To him, that's not belonging, that's betrayal of self. 7. He knows group success can hide individual decay. A winning team can still destroy the man inside it. People worship team victories, raising trophies and chanting in stadiums as if the collective win erases every hidden cost. But the Sigma looks deeper. He sees the individuals lost inside the group, the men who gave up their own vision to fuel someone else's anthem, the man who sacrifices his dream for the team, the man who hides his misery beneath a jersey that feels more like a muzzle than pride. That's why he suffocates, because the chant drowns out the whispers of decay, because the roar of the crowd silences the private truths rotting underneath. And he refuses to rot for the sake of appearances, refuses to trade his own breath for the illusion of unity. To the Sigma, no trophy, no applause, no hollow cheer is worth the quiet death of the self. 8. He refuses to carry the dead weight of pretend spirit. Team spirit dies when it's forced, yet you're expected to carry the corpse. Most teams are held together by empty slogans, catchphrases repeated until they lose all meaning. Half the people don't care, but all pretend to clapping, smiling, shouting because it's expected, not because it's real. The Sigma suffocates here, buried under the weight of fake enthusiasm, staged loyalty, and forced smiles that reek of desperation. He won't do it. He won't drag around a corpse dressed up as spirit. He drops it where it lies and walks away. Better to breathe in honest silence than choke on a chorus of lies. Better to be branded cold than waste his energy keeping dead fires burning. 9. He knows belonging by force is lonelier than standing alone. The loneliest place is inside a crowd that doesn't know you. Weak men fear standing alone. They're terrified of silence, terrified of carrying their own weight, so they bury themselves inside teams, inside chants, inside colors that were never really theirs. They'd rather be swallowed whole by the crowd than face the emptiness of being authentic. But the Sigma knows the truth. Belonging by force is lonelier than solitude by choice. Forced unity doesn't cure isolation, it deepens it. He suffocates because team spirit doesn't bring him closer to people. It shoves him further from himself. Every chant pulls him away from his own voice. Every demand for loyalty strips away a piece of his truth, and he refuses to pay that price. To the Sigma, standing alone in brutal honesty will always beat standing together in a lie. 10. He understands spirit without freedom is just noise. If the spirit requires silence, it was never spirit. True spirit should elevate, inspire, and set a man free. It should challenge him to grow, to sharpen his edge, to rise stronger than he was before. But team spirit, as the world sells it, it suffocates. It doesn't elevate, it flattens. It doesn't inspire, it manipulates. It demands silence, conformity, and unquestioned obedience dressed up as loyalty. The Sigma doesn't suffocate because he hates unity. He suffocates because their version of it isn't real. It's not unity, it's uniformity. A choir of empty echoes where no individual voice is allowed to breathe. To him, it's noise without freedom, a chant that kills truth under the guise of togetherness. And he would rather breathe in brutal silence than choke to death on fake unity that was never real in the first place. On a final note, he didn't suffocate because he hated the crowd. He's suffocated because the crowd hated his breath. The Sigma male is not anti-team. He's anti-chain. He doesn't despise connection. He despises conformity disguised as connection. He doesn't fear unity. He fears the death of individuality inside it. That's why team spirit feels like suffocation, because it demands silence where he demands truth. And that's why he burns bridges, cuts ties, and walks away when the chant grows too loud. Not because he can't handle the noise, but because he refuses to lose his breath to it.